This is Support is Sexy, episode 178, with Realtor Tricia Lee. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so excited to have you here. It just would not be the same without you, especially on a day like today, which is International Women's Day. But of course, we celebrate women all day, every day here on the Support is Sexy podcast. And today, the woman that we're celebrating is Tricia Lee. Tricia is the founder and former owner of Polish Nail Bar. Now, if you've spent some time in Brooklyn or you lived in Brooklyn years ago, frequented Brooklyn, ever came through, and you were a beauty girl, you know about Polish. It was a wonderful place, a fantastic experience every time you went there. Tricia and Polish got tons of press about how wonderful it is. So you can imagine that it was a fun place to be if you've never been there, and a fun place to own. But what Tricia, who identifies as a beauty girl, having worked at MAC and Estée Lauder, she talks about in this episode how she got to the point of deciding that it was time to close up shop, move on, and do something else. And as you hear throughout this episode, this is something that seems to be a thread throughout her life, knowing when it's time to move on and move to that next thing. But as we all know, that's not always easy. Even if you're comfortable with knowing that it's time for you, sometimes it's difficult for the people around you, or sometimes it is difficult for you and you're trying to figure everything out and why this certain thing isn't fulfilling anymore, or you know it's not fulfilling anymore and you don't know what's next. There's a lot that goes into transition. Sometimes we make it heavier than it is, but sometimes it is heavy. We have to deal with it. And as Tricia said, it was a muddy time for her, a very tough transition for different reasons that she talks about here. But I really love the fact that she opens up to us and shares this story. Thank you, Tricia, with all of us about what she went through and how she made it through that and the decisions she had to make to get to that point and to move on to this new fantastic business of real estate that she talks about as well in this episode. So in this episode, what you'll learn from Tricia is knowing how to keep moving forward with your vision despite the obstacles, knowing when it's time to move on, remain focused on your why, how to make liars out of the haters, why you have to surround yourself with people who, as I say, support your kind of crazy, moving beyond the guilt of moving on, very important, how to face down self-doubt, also how success can sometimes cloud your sense of reality, the benefits of the hard times, even though there are times when we don't want to hear about the benefits, we just going through it, we need to get through it, but there are benefits to the hard times. Tricia's advice for women going through a tough transition, how being quote unquote about it has been key to her success, and the importance of doing the work when no one is watching. So I know you're going to love this episode. It's lots of fun. In fact, it was so fun that Tricia's little doggie, her new puppy called Butter, is in the background scurrying around. So you'll hear Butter a little bit in the beginning, has a little bell on. You'll hear that ringing. It stops as we get further into the episode, but you might still hear a little scurrying around. Still, lots of fun. Great advice from Tricia. Great information. Great inspiration, honestly, because I have been someone in my business that has gone through transitions. I've talked about it on the podcast before. So I was really drawn to Tricia's story and just love the way that she shares it here. So I won't keep you from it any longer. Without further ado, Tricia Lee. So Tricia, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to chat with you.
Oh, great. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. So first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Quite honestly, at a very young age. I was 11 years old and I started a cleaning company in my neighborhood. I just always needed to make my own money and not really have anyone limit what I do and how I spend my money. And I learned at an early age my allowance wouldn't stretch.
Right.
I really liked Trapper Keepers and I really loved M&Ms.
Trapper Keepers.
I loved unicorn stickers. And it was like, that $3, $4, $5 a week wasn't cutting it. So I had to just figure out. And I was always like on that mission of trying to figure out how to make my own money,
Why a cleaning business? What made you say this is the thing that's going to work for me?
So my OCD started at a very young age. I used to love to clean my bathroom. I kicked my sister out of our bathroom at a very young age. I refused to share it with her. I needed it to be perfect. I needed
Uh-huh.
white towels. I used to use Listerine and clean my toilet with it, clean my sink with it. I used to get in trouble for doing that because I'm like, if it kills the germs that cause bad breath, it'll definitely clean this toilet really
Oh
well.
my gosh.
So the cleaning thing and kind of being a little bit more particular about my space is probably what made the cleaning business easy for me. And so I just felt like I could help other people clean their space. And I hired my sister's friends and got them hired for like $5 a day. And I would make a little poster and go to Walgreens and print off copies. And it's
So,
like
oh, this was
call.
a serious business.
Oh no, it was a serious business. Like it was like, the little, you cut the little threads and you have the phone numbers. I put my mom's, answering machine number on there, and it's
Right.
like you call us, and this is $2 to do your dishes, and it's $5 to clean your living room, and vacuuming is this, bathrooms are this, and it's. I think back now, like when I look at it, I'm like they're probably just like laughing at us and thought it was really cute, but we were hustling, and I was making like $30-$40 a day, so.
I know you were big, and you were 11.
I was 11 and I was very serious about it. It was my summer vacation and I was not playing around, and everybody got paid $5 an hour. I didn't care. I was like, look, that's your flat rate salary. Good luck to you with your tips. But don't worry about what I'm charging, and
Right.
I had my sister was a total tomboy, so she'd always be out in the streets. I mean, she had tons of friends. I was very girly. I was always in the house playing dress up. And I just figured out this hustle, and it all went really well until my sister figured out that I was making so much money and she was making so little money.
Oh my gosh. And I love that you were paying $5 an hour. That's actually pretty good that back then.
No, it was $5 a day.
Oh, a day. I'm thinking an hour. That's right. I'm thinking per clean a day. All right. So you were
Yes. The
definitely a
word on the
hustler.
street was like, wait a minute, how does this work out? How does this shake out?
I don't
Wait,
work for
so we make
Tricia.
$20 combined and she makes $20 on her own?
Right. Exactly. I love it. Now, did your mom cultivate that in you and in your sister? Just this entrepreneurial spirit, even before we all had language for it?
You know what was funny is that my mom really promoted individuality. So she didn't necessarily have a judgment on what you cared about or what you were interested in.
Mm-hmm.
She just wanted to make sure that it was your own individual, like energy, spirit, like attention. So the focus in the home was always like figure out what you like to do, figure out what you love to do, and figure out what you're good at, but no judgment. So it was okay that I was a clean freak. It was okay that I was like wasting Listerine and toilet paper and paper towels all day long cleaning and organizing. Like she didn't care about that. She just wanted to make sure that we really knew who we were and we were good with who we were. My sister was very artistic. She was very creative. I mean, at 15 years old, she was reupholstering furniture in the house. I was dancing. I was like into student council, and I love to clean. I love to keep things organized. I loved beauty. I only had about 45 minutes between getting home and her getting home to basically break into her makeup drawers and do my face and fix my hair and try on her clothes. And that was like what I ran home to do every day.
I love it.
Yeah, so it was always like just be who you are and don't copy your sister and don't copy your friends. That was really the energy there. But I think the entrepreneurial thing just made sense because I was always pretty much a leader and kind of always went against the rules sometimes as far as like, no, I really want to try it this way or.
Mm-hmm. What would you say were some of your, or who would you say were some of your greatest influences growing up?
Um, Influences, I would say I had a teacher in the fourth grade, and I always talk about my teachers when I was younger because, being the only black child that was in either the school and or the class and getting special love and attention and encouragement from those teachers at that time was just a very special place. So I would say some of my teachers, just in how they managed the stress and the angst of the day and just kind of always kept their cool, particularly Mr. Rice in fourth grade and Miss Morris in fifth grade. I literally love these people. Up until I went to college, I would go back to the school and check in on them. They really allowed me to feel comfortable in my desire to lead and my desire to be an independent. And it's what has allowed me to feel very comfortable in my own skin, even if I'm very different from everyone in the room at times,
And you grew up in Phoenix, right?
I did, yeah. I grew up in Phoenix. It was just a very unique environment, considering that now I live in Brooklyn. But I think the only thing that I really had going for me living in Phoenix, in addition to obviously a beautiful environment and safety, I had people that allowed me to be myself. And encourage that. And when I got into business, I think a lot of my influences were people that were actually nothing like me, very very soft-spoken, very easygoing, very laid back. I'm very drawn to individuals like that because I can kind of be a little bit, too hyper, too,
They feel like
too
it
go.
balances you out.
Yeah, yeah. So most of the people I bring around me and pull around me typically are just, I just admire them. I admire their energy. I admire the way that they handle themselves. I admire the way they handle their day. I'm that girl that runs and hits a wall and then she melts. Like I will go until I crash, whereas I really appreciate people that kind of take it easy.
Interesting. Now, you studied communications, right, at Arizona State?
I did, yeah.
What did you think at that time was going to be your career or your path? Did you have entrepreneurship on your mind at that time or other ideas?
Well, I didn't have any idea. And all through high school, I wanted to be a flight attendant. And I was just like, okay, I got to go to college because basically I'm not old enough to be a flight attendant. So I actually did just that. I went to college. And as soon as I was 19, I was able to become a flight attendant. So went through training at a very young age. I'm in training with people that are 27, 25, and I'm in training to be a flight attendant. I did it for a year, hated it, and was horrible and got fired quickly.
Really? What did you hate about it? Was the travel the thing that you thought you loved but you hated?
I love to travel, but I don't want to service people when I'm traveling. I just want to sit down and sleep or relax.
Right.
I don't, that's not where I want to work. It's actually very taxing on the body. I have a lot of respect for flight attendants because, they're EMTs. They have to know and do everything. I didn't enjoy it and I was way too young and too immature to be good at it. But I immediately got back in school. I never stopped living with college roommates. I was just working and they were in college. So I got back into school and in my mind, I'm like, I want to be like Jackie Reed. I want to be on the television at night, BET News.
Right.
That's kind of what I thought. But at the time, I'm working in beauty and I'm working behind the beauty counter. And I've just always kind of been more go-getter in any environment, So I did really great in sales and I did really well being at the counter as the only Black girl in the entire department. So it was like I was someone that Black women could speak to about their beauty needs.
Was this still in Arizona?
Yeah, this is in Arizona. So it made me very popular very quickly because it was like if you look and there's 15 different counters on the floor and there's one Black woman or girl, really, I was like 20, and there's one Black person or one person with your skin tone, you're excited to see her. You want to talk to her about your oily skin, your pores, your under eye circles, whatever it is. So I did really well and I really enjoyed it. And I kind of just realized really quickly that I could continue to do beauty. I could do really well, and it would allow me to kind of move to New York after graduating and having a job and not necessarily coming out here, with $40 to my name and have no employment. So I applied for jobs in New York. I immediately transferred with Estée Lauder. Within no time, I was applying to work at MAC. I got there in 98, and I stayed there until I opened my own business.
Wow. So you knew at that time, well, you've always been into beauty, you said, going in your mom's makeup and that kind of thing. Yeah, it sort of led you. And then had New York always been something that was a part of your vision, or was that later as you got into the beauty business in Arizona?
It was a really part of my vision. We had moved to Arizona when we were very young. My parents got divorced, and I was living in Phoenix with my mom's aunt and her family and my mom. But that's the only family we had out there. So luckily my mom lived very close to my aunt. So we had some sense of family, but all of our family at that time lived in New York. So we would visit and it just always in the back of our minds was home. So it was I wanted to be here immediately.
So okay. So you made the move to New York and you started you said Estée Lauder and then to MAC?
Yeah, I transferred. I was working at Estée Lauder at the time in Phoenix, and so I came out here and interviewed with them. And I'm like pitching myself like a full-on. If we had PowerPoint at that time, it would have been a full-on PowerPoint promotion proposal. And they were like, "It's not that serious. Like, if you can sell the makeup, you can come and work here. It's fine."
Right.
So don't need to pull up my spreadsheets. You don't need to talk about my sales.
Right. Right.
So that was great. I came here with a job, but I moved to New York with probably $100 in my pocket. I don't even think I had that much money. I had a few boxes of clothes. I drove my Mustang all the way here with one of my best friends and just figured it out. So I moved here. I stayed with my family for a couple of weeks. I immediately had work and I had transportation. So I started working. As soon as I got a couple of checks, I got my own place and just hit the ground running. And I wanted to work for no one but MAC. So I started working at MAC within a couple of months. Within less than 6 months, I was in management. So I'm like 22 years old and I'm in management. I'm like, what is this?
Right.
But it made perfect sense because I always go the extra mile. I always want to know the details. I always want to know how do we do it? How do we do it better? I always want to have a say. And I absolutely always want to be in control. especially when it comes to my work and my work day and my work responsibilities. So in no time I was in management, and I moved on to do several different stores and retail development eventually for Mac. And all in the back of my mind, I'm like writing my business plan. I'm on lunch writing my business plan. I am on break. I am not having lunch whenever we had business sales meetings, because I would step away and I'd work on my business plan. And we spoke about Polish Bar like it actually existed. That was our reality, even though it didn't. So when I left, with business plan completed and ready to go. And I just felt confident that at that point I had managed, several multi-million-dollar locations for Mac. I'd opened tons of stores for them. I'd hired and fired and trained and developed every and anybody I could see. And I just knew that I could, if they trust me, I could trust me. That was just what it came to. And I felt so frustrated with the options for beauty services and nail services in Brooklyn. They were just horrible. And this is before nail bars were a thing. I mean, that was what I did, and that's what I created, and that's what I put on the map. And then it spread throughout Brooklyn, it spread throughout the city, and it spread throughout, the East Coast. But it didn't exist before Polish Bar.
So tell people who don't know, and I used to love Polish Bar, but tell people who don't know what Polish Bar was and what the whole idea of it was behind it.
What it was, like I always used to say, it was a beauty girl's like nail dream. So Polish Bar was a concept that I came up with. I'm working and making and managing Mac stores. So for years, almost 10 years, I'm working in these stores, and I see the reaction on people's faces when they come into the Mac store, when the colors are laid out. You guys don't ever buy yellow eyeshadow. You're just happy to see it there. You love the music. You love the way it makes you feel. And I felt like I could do that with nails. And my obsession with nails came from the fact that I bit my nails and didn't have any. So I'd always been obsessed with fingernails. It was like, when I get my fingernails, I'm going to do, that was like one of the first things I do when I look at people. I look at their eyebrows and their nails. So I just started coming up with this concept for how I could do it better. And I would go to this place called Spa Bells in the city. I would try all these different salons, and there were decent salons in Manhattan, and I'm talking about decent when you're not going high end and you're not spending $75, $85, $100 to get your nails done.
Right.
But there weren't any cutesy options with trendy colors and cool brands and unique, fun services. And Brooklyn just didn't have that. So I specifically even named the business Polish Bar Brooklyn, because I was like, this is going to be something awesome for us. Like, you don't have to be a, young, affluent woman working discretionary income, know your style, love your beauty. And you don't have to stay in Manhattan after work just to get a beauty service. Like, that's crap, like you live in Brooklyn. And I was frustrated with it. I felt like I had to come home, from work and get my nails done in Manhattan and get home at 9:30. It was, it was such craziness. And I'm like, why can't I have cool, cute, fun places in my neighborhood that I'm proud of? So Polish Bar met my own need. It met my need for what I wanted. I would get a pedicure every week. Never got a manicure because I didn't have fingernails, but I just wished it was in my neighborhood. So I created everything I wanted. I wanted to be a place where people could come in, feel comfortable, bring their friends, kind of show it off, as in, look at this cool thing in my neighborhood,
And this was, now for everyone listening who knows a little bit about Brooklyn now, or for those who live there now, this was before Brooklyn was everything it is today with all the different amenities and those kinds of things. You were really ahead of your time with opening up a space like this that was really more about the experience than just the service.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt that if I needed it, everyone else that I knew and everyone that else was like me needed it. And I just had a muse in my head, and I felt like this woman was, out of college. She had some discretionary income. This is something that she wanted to do every week to treat herself. And maybe she lived in Brooklyn. Maybe she didn't live in Brooklyn before. Maybe she'd moved here after college or came back after college. But she wanted a place that she could bring her girlfriends to when they were in town and be proud of. And not necessarily have to traipse to the city and say, oh, this is where all the good stuff is, though, but I live in Brooklyn. And I didn't like the way that made me feel. And so when I created Polish Bar, it was very easy to come up with the concept, because it was like, I want what I want. And just make it for me. And everybody likes what I like, then we're good. And if you don't like what I like, then you can go over here, you can go over there. There was just so many options. But there were not nail bars. There were not places like this that were pink and pretty with beautiful music and amazing polishes and gray and green and orange. Like, we didn't have that. So I focused a lot on great colors, fun products, introducing indie brands to people. It was easy because a lot of it was just my natural interest. I focused on nostalgic music. I wanted you to come in and hear Boy George. I wanted you to remember music from your 7th grade dance. It was all done purposefully. But at the time, it was the only place like that. And so it was interesting to watch it become a trend. When I closed Polish Bar, the week before I closed Polish Bar, my nail supplier that I'd been working with for over 10 years, who didn't even speak to me when I used to come into the supply. And eventually we built a relationship, and we would speak and we would laugh and we would giggle, and she didn't just hand me off to her daughter to help me. Mm-hmm. But in my last week, she actually told me, when you came in here, originally you used to ask for things, and you had this energy about you, and we used to think you were crazy. We'd laugh at you when you left because we used to think that this little girl doesn't understand. Nobody cares about this stuff. Like, just get what you can, the cheapest thing you can, get whatever, get the quantity. And she said, now, years later, I tell new owners to look at your business and to follow your model, to spend the time and the money on hygiene standards, and to make sure people, make sure, because I was going in and I was ordering cases of files, cases of buffers, cases of items so that people weren't reusing these tools.
Right.
And so I'm ordering them by the month, and other salons were ordering a bag of them, and that would last them for an entire month. I would order, 500 of them, and that wouldn't even last me 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. So it was the piece that I needed, because I felt like this is a woman that had been in the nail business for 20 odd years. And, the last time I spoke to her, she's like, you really set the standard. And when you change things really pivoted. She's like, now I tell people, look at Polish Bar. This is what Brooklyn needs. This is how you do it right. If you try to do it on the cheap, or you try to do it really whack, nobody's going to support it. And that was like the best compliment I could have gotten at the time, to make me understand that, look, I did what I was supposed to do. I'm done here.
That's right. And that's amazing. I think just an example, I should say, too, of not letting people who don't speak to you when you go to the supplier, or who don't get your vision, or those kind of things stop you. Because suppose you had been dissuaded just from that, which can be hard. I know a lot of people in fashion who talk about that. The manufacturers, sometimes they feel like these people hate me and I'm paying them money to produce my stuff, but it's sort of like
spending thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And it's like, why are they so mean to me? I don't understand. I'm trying to give them money, but it's the thing of, you have to keep going and stick with your vision.
Yeah. I mean, I remember her telling me one time, if I order these for you, this ridiculous amount that you're trying to get me to order, and it was like files. Because I'm like, listen, every customer leaves with a brand new file. They can bring it back, or they can reuse it at home, but we don't reuse files. That was such a unique idea at the time that she argued with me and was like, listen, if I order these boxes of files for you every single month, you have to order them for me. You can't change supplier, because I'm not going to be having thousands of files sitting on my shelves because you change your mind. I'm like, nope. I ordered files from her up until the very last order that I ever made.
Wow.
But this is a time where the concept of coming in and getting new, fresh tools didn't make sense to people. Mm-hmm. The concept of having, Chanel and YSL polishes didn't make sense. The concept of having great, hip, fun, nostalgic music that makes people feel good about their services, that wasn't a thing. People, people didn't have a computer and a check-in and a text reminder and appointment page on their website. People didn't have websites. Mm-hmm. So it was really unique at the time. But when you think about all the things that a market is missing and you're trying to create something, sometimes you or the people around you are really the best test market for it. It was like, I would love somebody to remind me I have a nail appointment. I would love somebody to take an appointment on a Saturday morning versus me going in there and standing for 90 minutes trying to get a service. Those are things that I just felt they made perfect sense.
And did you have the business by yourself, or did you open it with someone?
I always had it by myself. I felt like at the time, and all through the time I had Polish Bar, like whoever I was dating, was always so supportive of me and whatever I was working on. So I had some great ride or die boyfriends, but it was always mine. I managed everything. I did the first one. I did the second one. I managed both of them. I did the bookkeeping. You name it, I did it. There's just no element of the business I don't understand. If I need to look at a blueprint, figure out a plumbing situation, repair a sidewalk, come up with a marketing plan, put on a dress and twirl around at a party, whatever it is.
Right.
I know how to do it. There are things I'm better at than others, but I know how to do everything I need to do for my business. And I don't know if that's a part of me being a control freak or me just making sure that it is done the way I need it to get done. Well, that's the same thing, isn't it?
It's okay. It sounds better making sure everything's done the way you need it to get done. Sounds better than control freak. But no, I get it. You like it a certain way. And, well, you're fully invested in it, too.
Absolutely.
Right.
And, people that work and support you on their team, that these individuals are invaluable, but when they see your vision, they get behind you. And so you're not trying to convince, you're just trying to fight to get ahead,
Right. So what was it like then when you got to the point where you figured out that this chapter with Polish Bar in Brooklyn was ending?
It was really early on. It was really early on. I don't know. Maybe I'm a one night stand type of girl because I was like, oh, this is only fun when I start them. I don't really like keeping them for too long, you know?
Right. And you had the business for 10 years, right?
Yeah. It was weird. But, when I started, it was so well received and it was such a blessing. And Brooklyn just warmed up to us, loved us, supported us. And when I say Brooklyn, I mean residents, I mean politicians, I mean city people, I mean everything. Just that people just loved us. I mean, New York Magazine wrote about us and we weren't even open. I was like, hey, we don't actually exist yet.
Right.
But, and this is when there was no online. It was like pages and, New York Magazine has we have a little excerpt in there and I'm like, we don't actually have keys or we're not there yet. We just had to sign up. So we got a lot of love and a lot of support. And I mean, any way anyone could incorporate us into any piece or editorial piece or press they did. But, it was a lot. I was very busy. Immediately, I realized that the store was not big enough. And so, after a year and a half, I had to work on an expansion plan. I opened another store within 2 years. And in opening that second store, that was a full-on build-out. So it was so much. It was just like architectural plans. It was everything. Mm-hmm. And in that process, I realized that I kind of had a nick for that. I was kind of like, okay, I could kind of do this. I could see myself creating spaces. I kind of think I know what I'm doing. And when I was trying to get the space, I remember at one point just being like, the only people making money around here are the brokers and the landlords, mm-hmm. And I was just so frustrated with trying to get the right space. And so I don't think that store the second store was open for 6 months and I started buzzing around talking about real estate. But I just never had time to do it, Mm-hmm. And then one year, 2014 was ending and I pulled out my resolutions and I realized that getting my real estate license had been on the list for 4 years. And I was like, I'm not doing this again. So that year, it was the beginning of December, signed up for classes and I just knocked out a ton of classes because I was like, I'm going to finish these classes. Mm-hmm. So I got my license by that January. And then it took about maybe 6 months to 10 months to get the business to the point where I could kind of start in real estate and then and also have the business. And that's what I did. And at that point, I was just so exhausted by the business. I was so exhausted by, quite honestly, managing the staff and mm-hmm. managing the day-to-day and the day-to-day operations.
How big was your staff at that point?
At the height, it was at 22 people. Right. When we very first started, we had 5 people. But, I'd been managing when I was in Estée Lauder at MAC. So it's I'd always been managing a team of people or teams of people. And I just grew tired of it. Some people say, oh, you can hand it off. And I was like, listen, I've done this. There's nothing you can't tell me about this. I don't want to do it anymore. And it had to come down to do you want to do it? I can do a lot of things. We can walk on our hands, like people say, but do you choose to? No. Right. I was just tired of it. And I had grown out of it and I had grown beyond it. And I think that for the next person, there's probably a lot that they would want to do with Polish Bar. But for me, I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I didn't feel that I didn't feel like I had to explain that. I felt like, look, y'all didn't love this until I created it. Mm-hmm.
Right. Was there a part of you that did feel like, though, that you, maybe not that you had to explain it, I just wonder if I don't want to project this, but was there a part of you that's sort of well, I should be happy to do, because I am getting all this press and everyone loves it and all these other reasons that you might make up in your own mind for you, quote unquote, should stay. But it's sort of that, no, this isn't it anymore.
Yeah, so I wasn't addicted to that feeling anymore because it is cool. You know what I mean? It's cool seeing yourself on MTV. It's cool seeing yourself on commercials. It's cool seeing yourself on the damn bus stop in front of your business. It's cool. Right. But, like anybody, we're always cursed when we're really ambitious. We get over things just as quickly as we get under them, Mm-hmm. So it didn't do it for me. It didn't excite me. And I was never a nail tech. You know what I mean? I worked at MAC for years. I was never really a beauty artist. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businesswoman, right? So there's a passion for a business doing well in my soul, but there's not a passion for painting nails. Mm-hmm. There's not a passion for doing eyebrows. My passion when I worked at MAC was, I want to make sure my business does better than every other MAC location. Right. That's my passion. So with Polish Bar, I want to create the best, coolest little nail beauty bar that Brooklyn has ever seen. That's the passion. You know what I mean? It's not.
And then once you did that, it was okay, that's complete. Right.
Yeah. So now it's I get up with drive and vigor in real estate because that's my goal. But I never I understand what you're saying when you say, like, did you feel like you had to explain it because it made sense? I get the piece of being an entrepreneur. Like, you wear a suit, and a part of that suit is that you set an example for people, and your story of someone that's winning, your story of somebody that is like going out on their own and starting their own thing and not going, and going against the grain and doing it. So there's a little responsibility with that, in the sense that, you have to share your story, and you have to, or you end up inspiring people. So especially with my business being so popular and it being beauty, it didn't make sense to anybody that I didn't want to do it anymore. And when I would tell people I really outgrown it, they would look at me like I had 13 heads. It just made no sense to them. But it's also because unless you knew me personally, you didn't really understand what drove me, Regardless
you seem like
of
you
how,
were very in tune with that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it seems like you were very in tune with your why, like why you wanted to do the business, or what was driving you.
Yeah, like it was, especially with Polish Bar, it was the marketing. I loved that piece of it. I loved it. I loved putting together events. I loved putting together new initiatives. I loved training my staff on new services. I loved rolling them out and being like, hey, we're the only ones doing this. You better come here. Like, that's the piece I love. It wasn't like I wanted to stand there and figure out a manicure. Like, that wasn't it. You know what I mean? And people that run a nail salon and are good at the actual nails. Now those are unicorns. That wasn't me. Like, I was good at marketing. And so had it been bagels or cars, I would have still loved that, because that was my passion. And I also don't believe in doing anything for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? I really believe that I can choose to do anything I want for as long as I want, and then I can go left whenever I feel like it. So I always felt that way, and I think that's why I could pick up and move to New York. I think that's why I could, leave an Estée Lauder job 40 hours a week and go work at Mac for 12 hours a week just to get in with the company, and that's why every time they asked me to go to a bigger location to manage it, I would, and, to open a store, I would. And then when I left there and gave notice after many years and opened my own business, people treated me like an outsider. It was like, you're leaving? Are you crazy?
But I think that makes you such a powerful example. One of the reasons I'm excited to talk to you, even though I didn't even know this part of your story, but just that to me makes you such an example for all women, young women especially, but all women. This idea of, one, when you feel like something is complete, then it's complete. Not what everyone else says, or the shoulds and all these other things attached to it, or play it safe, or, this is successful, just stick with that. You're such an example of someone who's like, well, this wasn't why I was doing this. This is complete. I'm moving on. I'm not afraid to take the next step.
And like anything else, like, we need to be challenged. So if this is phenomenal to you, it doesn't mean it's phenomenal to me.
Right.
I left my job at Estée Lauder, and I remember telling my neighbor, and the doors were closing on the train, and she was like, no. And I was like, I'm going in, I'm giving my notice today. I'm so excited. I'm going to give them 30 days, and it was like, you've been here forever. Like, what are you talking about? And you've got like this really cool job. You go around to open Mac stores. Are you crazy? And I remember, and I don't think this actually happened, but I remember the scene, like the G train was closing. I remember her being like, girl, don't do it,
Right. Like,
and
she's trying to stop you.
Yeah. And at that time, everyone I worked with was my family. Like, I've known them. We'd been working together for so long. It was my first real career. And, it looks crazy. You look crazy when you step away from a good job, good employee, good benefits, 401, you name it. I had it because I'd been with Lauder, mind you, since I was 20. So even though, I was like 30 at the time, I had 401k since I was like 18, like you name it. I had a solid situation for what it is. And it was odd. And then people came around, I remember when one of the Mac stores had their like holiday party at Polish Bar. That was the best compliment someone could give me at the time.
And that's the thing I tell people too. You have to find, especially as an entrepreneur and someone who's driven to, as you said, make the move when it's time. You have to surround yourself with people who support your kind of crazy. Right.
Even with the salon, I remember a guy said to me, well, do you ever think that maybe people just know you as the nail girl and they wouldn't necessarily trust you selling their house for them? And I was like, okay. In the back of my mind, I was like, I'm going to send you my first listing, punk.
Right, exactly. I'm going to show you.
That's who I am. That's how I'm like, oh, really? Okay. And I don't say anything. I'm always like, You know what I mean? I'm like, remember to sell more houses than he did last year. Remember that. Whatever. Look up what his totals, and whatever his totals were, make sure you sell more than him in your first year.
Right.
That's where I get my motivation, because it's like I'm not on your schedule. It's not like I can do whatever I want. I'm a very responsible person, but I do what I want to do because I know how hard I go when I care.
Right.
And that is what feels good. Like I tell everybody, I don't use an alarm clock. I wake up with drive.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't used an alarm clock I don't even know how long it's been since I've used an alarm clock. I don't need to use an alarm clock. I'm naturally driven to get up and get my day started and conquer. But it's only when I'm doing what I want to do and what I really like to do.
I love it. Now, in a recent post, and the thing that I saw, which made me reach out to you right away, one of the things you mentioned is that when you close a business, you shed a few layers, a few tiers, and a little bit of your identity. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you, what was it like what layers do you feel like you shed, and in what ways did your identity play a role? So my identity got really entrenched in beauty at a very young age. I was always a beauty girl, like I was that girl that was bringing Christian Dior lipsticks to school, like that I snuck out of my mom's drawer. And, I was buying the Wet n Wild blue mascara. And so before I was in beauty, I was a beauty girl. I was like on lunch break doing makeovers, like the lunch benches, So here it is, fast forward, I'm going into real estate, I'm closing my beauty business, and most of the people that are in my personal life are in beauty, or beauty writers, beauty editors, beauty bloggers, whatever you have you. And so you kind of feel like, even now to this day when I'm with my friends, it's like they're all in the same industry and I'm selling houses. Mm-hmm. And so it does feel like, it feels surreal because it's like, how the hell did I get here? Right.
I'm the beauty girl, I'm the girl that's looking at everyone's eyebrows on the train. I'm the one, So it just felt odd because it was like, wow, like nothing about what I do is tied to beauty. And I don't know that. Like I've never been that person. I've been in beauty from as long as I can remember, from as long as I could vote, Mm-hmm. So that is a huge part of your identity. And, I had to channel that energy into something else. I had to figure out, okay, I'll just, work on a very strong work image, and I'll just be known for that girl with fly nails and gorgeous lip colors. And I can express myself and express my beauty interests in this industry in a way that's comfortable and suiting. But, it's just, I can't be doing people's eyebrows at open houses. At the office, exactly. But I figured out really quickly, like, now I get to enjoy beauty and not do beauty. And so it's fine. I was at a beauty shop today on my lunch. So that's kind of what it felt weird, and it still sometimes feels weird, to be honest with you. And as far as layers and tiers, it is, there's a lot of responsibility with managing people and providing income for them, and so the reality of it is I was running a business that kept homes with the lights on and kept the electricity on and kept the rent paid and the mortgage paid. You feel very guilty when you bring that to an end. I had employees that had been working for me for 9-10 years, and there's so much guilt with that. So as much as I was like shedding off a dead layer of skin, I felt so guilty. And I also felt like staff that had been so loyal to me and my business and my brand and my belief system, I didn't have a next plan for them. I didn't have a next step for them. And so there's horrible guilt. It's not a good feeling, even though I'm inside bursting and excited about my new chapter.
How did you get to the point where you realized that wasn't necessary, although it's a loving, kind way to feel and wanting to take care of people, but did you get to the point where you realized, you know what, that's not my responsibility. I've given them time to know that this is going to happen and I have to move on?
I did. I think my sister helped me with that a little bit more, though. I just hit a wall and was like, look, I got to do me. Like I've never, ever, ever only worried about me. I've always, had to worry and think and plan and project and everything for everyone else. And so it was like, if I go into real estate, I don't have any employees, I don't have any support staff. It's just me. I get to just do me. And it just felt so freeing. And when I hit a wall of guilt, I just didn't look back. And so it was like, it's like anything with me. It's like, I will go. And then when I'm done, I'm done. And I definitely got to a point where I was like, listen, this next chapter has to be about me. And in so many ways I came to life. I mean, I had 10 years of like, barely being able to go home and visit my family on the West Coast. I had 10 years of barely being able to ever go on vacation. Let's be like, don't be ridiculous. I couldn't even take more than 2 days off at a time.
Right.
And so, in a lot of ways, even though I went into real estate, it was a brand new business and I was working really hard, I also was bawling out of control. I was like, oh God, I want to go here. I want to go there. Because I didn't never had that freedom before. I never got to go home for Thanksgiving.
Right.
It was like one of the busiest weekends in our business. You know what I mean? I never got to go to brunch with my friends on Saturday. My shops were packed. Like that wasn't even, yeah. So I came to life. It's like I did a phenomenal thing for 10 years, but I also missed a whole lot of living for 10 years.
I realize the sacrifices that
they don't. And we lie. We post the cute parts. We post the fun stuff. Like, no, these are 11, 12-hour days. These are negotiating with people to come to work. These are things shutting down when someone's baby is sick. It's a lot. If it's bad weather, guess who has to shovel sidewalks or make sure they're shoveled? And, Sandy, all of those different crazy weather storms we've had, that is catastrophic to a business. So it's like I get to be young again. I get to be fun again.
Right.
And not to say that I'm not working and grinding.
Well,
but
you're crushing it. We're going to talk about that. You're not even just working. Yeah, you're more than grinding. You're crushing it, of course, because that's what you do. So what would you say then is, you talked about some of the things that you love about the freedom of being a real estate salesperson. You're doing really well. But what would you say any lessons that you learned that you're taking from the first business into this new venture or this new chapter for you, if there are any?
I always tell people I'm still an entrepreneur in real estate. So, even though I'm partnered with a brokerage company, you're still an entrepreneur. Like there's nothing that you can generate. There's nothing that you can earn without generating on your own. So it's actually scarier than running a salon because it's like, I was able to create a pretty strong marketing campaign and get people into my shop immediately. The first day I was flooded. I didn't have appointments available for weeks when I opened Polish Bar. So now you go into real estate and it's like, like tomorrow, if you had to get somebody to trust you to sell their house or rent their apartment, would they? That's how crazy it is. So it is a really, really tough battle because you're starting from absolutely scratch. And you don't even have a fun, cutesy service that people want. You're actually trying to generate business by getting people to trust you with the sale of their property, the purchase of their first home, finding their first apartment they want to rent, whatever it is. So I realized right away it was still entrepreneurship. I realized right away it was still marketing yourself. I realized right away it was still administrative, organizational skills, bookkeeping, and very similar. It was the product changed, but it was still customer service. It was still, having people trust you, but just with something far more important. I think the biggest lesson that I learned is a very humbling lesson, but, people just believe in me. They believed in me. They believed in me at Polish Bar when I didn't do nails and I owned a salon. And they believe in me now. And I don't know what that is. I don't know why that is, but I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if people, when they listen to this, they'll be able to tell why that is. You clearly I just love the fact that you're so focused on your why, not even just, obviously you're someone who makes it happen and that kind of thing, but it seems like you're really driven by what you want to create. And I think people, when people see that in other people, we're sort of drawn to that. Not everyone is drawn to it. Like you said, everything ain't for everybody.
Right.
But most people are drawn to that. Now, you were recently named, speaking of crushing it, as we talked about earlier, your company is Compass. That's the company you work with. And you were recently named Rookie of the Year with 14 million in sales. Did I get that right? Congratulations.
Isn't that crazy?
That
I know.
Is wonderful.
I just got goosebumps when you said it. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. What's crazy is it was such a hard year. I can explain to you, Elayne, how hard that year was. That year was such a hard, humbling, just low down, dirty year.
You said it was like a muddy period. That's one of the things you said.
Terrible. And I'm a beauty girl, and I'm like, you don't even know who I am. I shouldn't even be here.
Right.
It was such a hard year, and I hate when people say this. Oh, you have to go through the tough stuff, and you're not going to really know who you are until you're challenged. And you know what? On the other side, and I would be like, get out of here! Like,
get out of here with the platitudes.
Get out of here! Like, that's not necessary. I just want to walk in and just make it happen. And I just, I don't even know. I've never been a self-doubter. I was a self-doubter. I have never been timid. I was timid. I was all of those things, because it's like, what have I gotten myself into? And why the hell do I think at 40 I could pull this off? It was crazy. But what happens is, in all those crazy situations, all those moving parts, you just start digging down deeper and deeper and deeper, and you pull out the rawest version of yourself. And when I got to her, it was like, this is what you do. All you do is kill it. Mm-hmm. That's all you know how to do. And I don't know. I just came back to who I was, and once I got past all those silly feelings, I'm like, girl, you've got to get in here and show these people what you're made of, and you know what you're made of, so don't be sidetracked with the challenges day to day. Just focus on the goal.
And was there a part of you was there ever a part of you that came to the point where it was like, okay, the things those people said who were trying to encourage me with, oh, you got to get to the other side is actually true?
Absolutely. And now I'm those people. I'm like, I know it's corny people. Right. Now I'm one of the corny people. Right. Now I'm like, girl, you need to go through this. If you don't, can you imagine? You're going to miss the good. Like, I'm that person. If I didn't go through that year, the problem with Polish Bar was it was an immediate success. And it confused me to think that whatever I touched turned to gold. That's the problem with Polish Bar. As wonderful as it was, it's like I got out on stage and next thing you know, I'm in a starring role. So it's like, oh my gosh, like everybody wants what I have and this is awesome. I never had to struggle to build. I never had to struggle for business. My demand issues with Polish Bar was meeting the demand. Mm-hmm. So this was a very different experience for me. And being, imagine yourself like, I'm living in Brooklyn. I'd have a couple campaigns that, helped me to kind of get to know people really quickly in Brooklyn. So for the most part, in most rooms, I knew people knew who I was. I was very familiar. I was a familiar face. So now I'm in real estate and people think that you're the copy girl. They don't care who you are. Just move out of their way.
Right. They have no idea.
Yeah, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about, like people would treat me bad and I would be like, when I crush her, I'm going to treat her better though. I'm going to be nice to her even when I'm killing her numbers. And I would think that and I would be like, you know what? I want to be successful like her, but I don't necessarily want to be miserable like her. I want to be really happy and content and I want to treat people really good. Every single person in this building. I want to give great internal customer service. I want to treat everyone internally in this company really, really well, regardless of how successful I am. And I think that by no one knowing who I was and no one caring, it really helped me to understand like the kind of career I wanted to build and just the kind of broker I wanted to be. And this was actually at another company. I wasn't at Compass at the time. Compass recruited me after I had a really strong year. But it was just great. And it was a great time for self-reflection, and I thought back to things that I had done in grade school and high school and all the things I'd accomplished. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, why wouldn't you think that you wouldn't do well here? And I had to work on getting there, Right. And I looked up and, it was like all of a sudden, like overnight I had like, 6 deals in contract. And like at one point I had 11 deals in contract. And at the time my old firm came to me and says, you need an assistant. What are you doing? And I'm like, assistant? What are you talking about?
Right.
It hadn't even dawned on me. They're like, Tricia, you can't continue to do this on your own. I was like, yes, I can. I used to own Polish Bar. You don't know what I can do.
Right. You were used to doing that, right? But support is sexy, Tricia. Don't forget.
I know. I just hired a new teammate this week. I'm so excited.
Very good. Now, what advice do you have for women who may be in the middle of a tough transition where they're maybe letting go of their business or a career or something else, and they are, as you were, in this position, like, I feel like this is complete and I want to move on. What advice would you say, or something that you wish someone would have said to you during that time?
I think I tried to do this to the best of my ability, and I would probably give anyone the same advice, is to just really come up with a really good strategy and understand that regardless of how much you might want something, it may not necessarily come to you in the way that it needs to. Like, for example, I know why my closing of my business and starting up real estate was such a tough transition. Like, while it was a successful year on numbers scale, it was a really, really tough year. I know why that had to happen, because I know that I had to develop certain interpersonal skills and certain humility and, just compassion. And there's certain things I need to develop a little bit more within myself. And I think that period really rounded me out. Not that I don't still have a lot of work to do, but I think it gave me certain gifts that I just needed to be better at what I do and to be just a better version of myself. So that didn't make sense in the beginning, but now it's like, Oh, I get it. I get it. I think that my best advice to anyone is that it is not going to be easy. So try to plan and strategize as best as you can to make sure that you're good. Um, and to, why I believe that we're all dreamers and that we all have amazing goals. I think that sometimes people, talk about what they want to do and what their dreams and their goals are, but they're not really about it. Like, they're not really about it all the time. It's like, oh, I'm getting ready to do this. Well, are you about, like, I am about it. Like, if I say I'm doing something, I'm 100% into it. I'm not falling off the grid for a week and a half because I had to get my nails done. Like, I'm fully focused on whatever it is that I'm doing. If it's my business, if it's building a business or whatever, I'm really, really serious. I don't do it for trend. I don't do it because it's a cool little group to be a part of. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to call me an entrepreneur, fine. But what I'm going to do regardless is rock my business.
Right.
And I think that that's where I would tell people to, like, just focus on what's important. Understand it's going to be challenging. And do not get sidetracked with the labels, because the labels don't matter when the bills aren't getting paid. Polish bar is a phenomenal thing, but I was doing it regardless, and then I got noticed for it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for me, and I wanted to do a really good job. So I was always focused on it. It was always a huge priority. It was very important to me, and I worked at it very, very hard. I didn't do it so that people would recognize me. And I definitely didn't do it so people could be like, oh, you own Polish Bar. That's not why I did it, because that's not enough. You have to work too hard to care what people think. Like, it's those accolades don't give you peace. They don't give you peace at night. You need to do it because you want to do it, and because you believe in it, and because you're willing to work really hard at it. I wonder sometimes if we're not in a world now where it's more about, oh, I'm so-and-so and I own this. But do you really grind it out?
Right. And are you doing it just for the likes, so to speak?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, when the times that I agree with you, because I believe during the times when no one is watching, or, maybe you have a great season where you're featured in all these magazines, and then there's a few months where no one features you. During that time, no one cares, and you have to be able to carry yourself through that time, because it's not always going to be like that.
Absolutely. Like, Polish Bar's doors open 6-7 days a week, regardless of whether or not we had Facebook or not. We opened before Facebook, before Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, there was no social media back then, and people were barely using websites for beauty services. I mean, I don't even know if Sephora was out at that time. I don't even remember. But you gotta just do it. Like, you have to just, like, they're not enough likes for it to make sense. They're just not. You know. And I think that we're in a culture now where people are just like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm about to do this. Honey, you will not make your own schedule. You will do what needs to be done when it needs to be done.
Right.
That's how it works. You will meet demands that you don't even know how you're able to meet them, but you meet them because you don't have a choice. You will put your employees' safety and welfare above your own because they show up for you every day. Mm-hmm. That's the truth of it. And I don't think there's enough conversations about that. I think people want to be dreamers. And I'm all about dreamers. I'm all about dreams and goals. And I'm always thinking, even with real estate, I've got the next plot already planned out. I mean, that's my mind. But I'm not moved or inspired because I'm admired. Let's put it like that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important what you just said, because that's one of the reasons that I love for women to come in this space and share their stories, because they share the truth about what went on during that time, how you felt and the experience, as opposed to, we look at the pictures and all of that great stuff and we create our own stories. But I really love the idea of people like you sharing your narrative, sharing your story. Mm-hmm. This is what happened, and people can learn from that, because there are those times when it's, up and down and that kind of thing. And it's good to hear that from people.
Yeah, no one talks about in real estate. Most people don't make a check for 6 months or a year. Mm-hmm. No one talks about that. My sales director at my old company was like, I didn't get a listing for 2 years. Wow. And I didn't make $1 for a year. He's like, Tricia, you had a listing within 6 months. He's like, that's crazy. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
That seems so long. Right. Right. What would you say entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman?
I can't answer that honestly because it sounds so terrible, but I can't afford to care, so it's fine. What I know about myself now more than ever, and I'm not sure if it's only entrepreneur. It might be entrepreneurship and also being 40. It may be entrepreneurship being 40 and failing and also succeeding. But what I understand is I really feel like I'm extraordinary. I feel like I'm extraordinary. I really, really do. Mm-hmm. I feel that what I'm able to endure, I feel like what I'm able to accomplish, I feel like what I'm able to push through, like just the strength from so many different struggles and challenges and successes is what I understand about myself now in a way that I never did before. There's just nothing basic about me. Let's put it like that. Like I
love it.
I just kind of understood that at a young age, but now at this age and at this time in my life, I don't expect the standard results because I don't feel like I give the standard effort.
I think 40 does that to a lot of women who are either whether you're entrepreneurs or just at least a 40-year-olds or 40-something-year-olds that I know. You just get to the stage where you don't care as much about what everyone else thinks. You're getting more rooted in who you really are and what makes sense for you. Yeah, so that could be it.
And it is. It's like like I always say, people, I always tell people I don't give discounts because I don't know how to discount what I do. I don't know how to shave down what I do and make it
right.
more palatable. Like this is me. I'm shiny, I'm glittery, and I'm bold, and I'm all those things. And I go hard. And I work hard. And I care, and so I don't spend too much time trying to minimize that so anyone else can be comfortable. I try to just do what I do. And luckily I've met about 20 or so people along the way that are okay with it.
Excellent. So what would you say then your support network looks like these days?
Oh, it's so unbelievable. It's a makeup of like a mother that doesn't care what I do as long as I'm happy and prays for me every single day. It's a sister that is like the biggest cheerleader that anyone could ever ask for. It is friends that don't give a shit what you're doing. They're just like, what do we have to do, Tricia? Where we jump in at?
Mm-hmm.
I could tell them any old crazy zany idea. They're like, okay, so what do you need me to do? They just get behind it, They get behind it. I had some friends stand in a line outside in the cold the other day for 2 hours so I could drink a shake at a restaurant. They just get behind it, and I think sometimes I ask like, why do y'all go so hard? And they're like, we believe you, we trust you, we always trust you. They're like, you're the one's going to know all the details. You're going to do all the background check. You're going to check everything out. You're going to analyze everything. You're going to show up with your spreadsheets. You're going to, you're that girl. And so because of that, like we always trust you in whatever decision needs to be made. But they get behind me. They support me. If I said tomorrow I don't want to touch another house and I want to start, teaching hula classes somewhere, they'd be like, okay, so you want us to put that on our blog? Like you want us to wear T-shirts? What do you want us to do? They're just, and I've been very fortunate to surround myself and maintain, which is most important, relationships with people that are like that. And, trust me, when their roles are therapists, their roles are promoters, their roles are self-motivated, like they have to hold me together. There are times when I'm like falling apart, and especially when I was going through my transition, I was just like, I don't understand what I'm doing. Why would I put myself through this? And, I have to get on the phone with a Renee, or I have to get on the phone with a T or a Debbie and say, I don't know if I really should be doing this. And they have to remind me of who I am, So it's phenomenal. And it helps that most of them are entrepreneurs, to be honest with you. But, even the ones that aren't, they're so supportive, and they just want to see you win, They want to see you win. And it's like, whatever I can do to help, I'd want to help. And my job is to maintain those relationships and to be equally supportive in their lives. And I understand the responsibility that comes with that.
Excellent. So in closing, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
I think it would be my mom more than anything. I think it would be my mom because she, I think I would say I was thankful for her letting me be strong and weak and letting me be, hard as nails and also vulnerable. And just letting me feel like I could do what I want to do. You know what I mean? It was never like, what are you doing moving to New York? You can't afford to live there. It was never any of that. It was never, and I've done some crazy, zany things, but it's always a feeling of, well, you can always come back here.
Mm-hmm. You can always come home.
You can always come back here. And then I think another piece of it is that, she really believes in me in a level that I don't think I even believe in myself. Like she just, she thinks that I am capable of accomplishing any and everything. That just, and she's always been that way. It's like she's always really supported whatever I wanted to do, and she's uniquely able to do that without necessarily agreeing with what I want to do. Like she sent me a text message the other day, and it was, like, I've always seen greatness for you. And she'll just send messages like that to me. She's like, this is who you've always been. I've always seen the greatness for you, and I'm just so proud that you're my daughter. And those, that's my reality. That's what I have at my base. Like, that's my foundation. So maybe that's why I kind of feel comfortable trying different things and going out and spreading my wings a little bit, because it's, that's been instilled in me from a very young age.
That is a true blessing. I love it. So now tell us how we can support you. Tell everyone where to find you. I'm going to have links to everything, of course, but just so people can hear it as they're listening. Any website you want to give out, social media, any of that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I am at Compass Real Estate. We are an amazing tech real estate firm that is just phenomenal. I mean, we are creating tools that allow you to really change the game in how you find homes and how you market and sell your home. I just love this company so much. I'm so excited to be there. So I am Tricia Lee, TRICIALEE at compass.com. I am Love Tricia Lee everywhere else. LOVETRICIALEE everywhere else. And then I also have an Instagram for my business. It's Move Me to Brooklyn. And I think my Facebook is Sold by Tricia Lee, but I'm pretty easy to find.
Move Me to Brooklyn is the Instagram?
Yeah, Move Me to Brooklyn. And I also have a personal Instagram as well, which is Love Tricia Lee. And I kind of teeter back and forth between the two because, anything I'm doing professionally is kind of an extension of who I really am. So I'm not in any way, I don't filter anything. It's like, hey, this is what I'm doing today. We're at the park. Well, now we're cleaning a house, or now we're painting, or whatever it is,
Right. So. I love it. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so glad we were able to catch up and make this happen. You're fantastic.
You too. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
This is great. And I'll be sure to send you links to everything, of course, when it's up.
Okay.
Excellent. So before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
One thing I always see is do what you love. And I think if I have to tell an audience of people anything, it's do whatever it is that you want to do, like when you want to do it, like do what you want to do. Like a lot of times it's, well, this would be the best decision or this would be the best move. And it's like, no, do what you want to do. Because when you want to be there and it matters to you, it's easy to grind, it's easy to work hard, and it's easy to fully focus on something. So, just sit back and ask yourself, is this what I want to do?
Excellent. I love it. Tricia, thank you so much. Hold on just one second. All right. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed that episode with Tricia Lee. For more about her and to get in touch with her, find out more about what she's doing in real estate, go to supportissexypodcast.com and just search Tricia, TRICIA. Her show notes page will come up. All of the links, everything will be there for you. You'll see it all. Before you go, though, I want to ask you, are you ready to make a transition in your life? If so, I want you to go to createsomething.sexy.com. You got to go there, check it out. As we talked about in the episode, you got to surround yourself with people who support your kind of crazy. And in the Create Something Sexy Mastermind, we are the people who support your kind of crazy. Crazy being an entrepreneur. Crazy being someone with dreams that might seem out of this world. Crazy being someone who is so passionate about the possibilities. That's what I always say. I am a partner for people in possibility, because holding on to the possibility sometimes is all that you have. So you have to surround yourself with people who support your vision. And in the Create Something Sexy Mastermind, which I'm launching on the first day of spring, March 20th, we have a group of women, diverse women, driven, passionate, generous, who are there to support you in moving forward. The whole idea is to get around women who want to see each other win. The Create Something Sexy Mastermind is set up in that way. It includes group coaching calls, one-on-one calls with me, accountability partners, because we have to hold each other accountable, all of the things that you'll need to be successful. Access to experts, private events. My goal with all of this is to make sure that you have a sexy business and life that you love. So if you think this could be right for you, go to createsomething.sexy.com now. If you want to sign up, just click one of the sign up buttons and I'll send you a nice little entry form to fill out. Just 7 questions so I can get to know you and what your vision is for your future. createsomething.sexy.com. So until then, you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.